Good morning. Let's make sure my sound is looking good. Anyway, so today I'm playing a little catch up. The goal of doing this daily, even though I've been looking at passages, the chapters daily, I had some issues occasionally trying to get the recordings done daily. So this may end up not being a daily recording. Go figure. I was not surprised by that. All righty, so let's start. We are in Genesis 4 today. Just gonna jump right in. Ready? Let's go. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." But the Lord said to him, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael was the father of Methushael, and Methushael was the father of Lamech, or Lamech. I don't know. Lamech married two women. Oh, look at that. One named Ada and the other Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who played string instruments and pipes. Zillah also had a son, Tubal-Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, "Listen to me. Wives of Lamech, hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times." Adam made love to his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." Seth also had a son, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. That's the end of Genesis 4. Hmm. Well, we got some drama here, don't we? Even for many, many people out there who are not that familiar with the Bible, they've probably are somewhat of aware of the story of, or at least the story of Cain and Abel, and perhaps aware of how that involves the first murder in human history, right? And so, what are we looking at here? The beginning of it, Adam and Eve are starting their family, and I, you know, I guess there's any number of ways that this could have been, led into, right? Just a normal progress, normal progression of a husband and wife and their normal sexual relations as part of their relationship, right? Just a natural byproduct is to have children, and that's actually a goal. It's one of the things that the Lord commanded them or asked them to do is to, he blessed them and told them to be fruitful and multiply or increase in number, right? Gotta have some coffee. And part of that, of course, is to have children, and I got to admit that in recent, over the course of my life, I didn't want to be limiting uh, or restrictive, I guess, in my wife and I's goals of having children. It's certainly uh, one of the things that we wanted to do is have as many as the Lord would bless us with. And we had even planned for the possibility of having four children by before we even married. We had the names set up, set aside for what we think we would name our children. And well, we had three. We didn't get to four. Some of the few, complexities involved here and there, and everyone's got their different blessings. And in fact, that's one of the things I find interesting that Eve comments on. It's with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man, and she even repeats that down later to when she has Seth, and she once again comments on it being a blessing from the Lord, right? And that's something we should always try to maintain in our mind and our heart is that these things that we have are all blessings from the Lord. And as far as any challenges that may occur, some people have, like we did, had to stop, but sometimes people can't have any. That's a good question. It's like, well, how is that a blessing? But whatever our circumstances, we should remember it's part of the plan that God has for our lives, and it could be that we're being called to help out in other ways to increase His kingdom, to affect the lives of those around us. And I've known I've known of people who have had taken that as an opportunity to say, okay, well, we can't have children of our own, but there are ample opportunities out there for helping out others and adopting other children and making them our family. And that's a very worthwhile goal too, when you can help out in some situation where a child is left without parents for one reason or another, and you can be that impact on their lives, a godly impact and influence, helping to bring another child into the kingdom of the Lord. So let's see. Now, and of course, then she also gives birth to Abel. Excuse me. So we got Cain and Abel originally. And it's interesting. I don't know if you got this specialization going on here. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But here you got Abel. He's focused on flocks, right? I don't know what that. It's probably given that what we're used to seeing, goats and sheep, stuff like that, right? I don't know. Not sure if that means they have any cows running around. No idea. All right. Then Cain's working the soil. So he's, remember, it's like the soil's going to be tough on you, but here you're going to be working hard on it. Apparently it was his thing. He wanted to raise crops. Not sure what that means either, but it could have been all kinds of things, wheat and there's a variety of things. I mean, you can think about it. Gardens, you can grow all kinds of vegetables and stuff, right? So this is the kind of thing he's doing. And as we ought to be doing on a regular occasion at some point here, you try to show your thankfulness to the Lord by providing an offering, giving to the Lord's efforts in this world, right? Not that he needs anything from us, but what we're trying to do is because of our gratitude, our love for him, our love for those who also in this world need his blessings, need his path to salvation, and ought to be also thankful for all the blessings that we have here in the earth. Just showing that as an example and something to help with the work of the church. Now, at that time, it's not like they have an established church or anything, right? But you're making an offering of thanksgiving to the Lord. And of course, in these instances, it's not like you sell stuff or give money and hey, we're going to help go, uh, evangelize and stuff like that or whatever. But here they're actually just, it's like a burnt offering, right? They're just like, now what do you do? What do you do there? What kind of things do you give? It's like, well, it has less to do, you know, some people look at this and it's like, okay, well, Cain's giving offerings of stuff that he's grown, right? And Abel's giving stuff that he's raised, the flocks. And we get this comment here. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. Now, is that because of the stuff that Cain and Abel brought as an offering? I mean, really, did the Lord not look at Cain's offering with favor because it's a bunch of wheat, fruit, vegetables, whatever? I don't know. Or and was he looking on favor with Abel because oh look at that some animal he raised? It's like so it's, and of course we'll hear in the future how the Jews, the Israelite nation, is called upon to regularly sacrifice animals, right? It's a whole different reason. Here we're being thankful. And so it does not have anything really to do with what is being offered. It has to do with the heart behind it. So, I mean, if you go to church and you're regularly giving offerings, it's like, are you giving the Lord from your heart, whatever the amount is, you're giving it stingily, like I think I can afford this today. Here you go. This month, or is it at the end of the month you've determined, okay, this is what we got left. Here you go. That kind of thing. Or is it in the beginning, let's say you get paid and you're like, right up front, here you go. And I'll make use of the rest. And you do it cheerfully, not because you're begrudging or feel like you owe something, or you're being prodded by people. Oh, you should be giving more. You know, Remember that that's not why we give to the Lord. We give because we are thankful and we do want to help in this modern day and age with his church, all the things that are rolled into that, including very much, hopefully, a lot of evangelism, reaching out to people that are not familiar with the Lord, that have not heard his word, have not heard about Jesus Christ and how he is a savior and specifically how he's come to save them from their sins, and a lot of people out there don't realize that the things they do are sinful and are leading to damnation. So they need to have that path of salvation and they need to know about it. Otherwise they can't make that choice, which remember is free will, being able to choose and having of course, it helps that you have the Spirit working in you when you start hearing the word being shared with you. Something starts to tweak at you, and that's that thing called the conscience. We'll dive into that later. But anyway, the point about the offerings, it has to come from your heart. You've got to be it's got to be something you give with a cheerful heart. You're you have nothing that's telling, nothing in your heart that's detracting from that, like a question of, can I afford it? Right. So in this instance, I mean, it's not exactly said it, except for the way it's described for about Abel's offering. Cain, it says, brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. Doesn't really say. It's like, is this the first stuff he had that grew? Is like, oh, great, let me get offer that to the Lord. The first that would be like a little leap of faith there. The first fruits of it would be something to say. And it's like, I will be getting more from you. I want to thank you for all this effort uh, being fruitful, literally. And here, boom. But no, it says some. So it's like, did he like, oh, I got my little stockpile. Here you go. You can have this. And it's like, that cantaloupe's not looking too good. That'll be perfect. Or, it's like it's the runts of the litter, so to speak. Did Abel do that? Did he give the runts of the litter, so to speak? It says fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. Fat portions. I don't know if that means they're just fat or they got lots of fat content. And like, I don't know what that means. But it's fat portions. I mean, that means big, good, right? Sizes, I guess. A large portion, and it's from the firstborn. So you've got your animals you're raising, and all of a sudden they're having their animals, they're having their firstborn, and you're like, perfect. Let me grab a bunch of those. Here, Lord, thank you so much. That's the thought behind it. And it's a tough thing for a lot of people because you've got all in recent everyone's doesn't matter your time and age, I guess, but you've always got the things you're dealing with within this life, and you're like, you have in your mind, this is what I need. So I don't know if I can afford this, that, or the other, right? So it's if you can get through that wall, I guess, of that helps prevents you from being able to be cheerful and giving and without being worried about it. Maybe that would be a good thing if you could use some kind, come up with some way of doing it. And I know that one of the ways that we try to do things is that, it's not like I know my paychecks, I know I know our earnings and stuff that we have to give from. We get and gets in the bank, right? But I have things set up so that it's automatically done. I'm not sitting there trying to figure out the amounts. We've already done that in advance and it's just automatic. And that helps us prevent having those thoughts. It's like, can I afford that this month? It's like, no, send it. We will live with the rest. And that's a good way perhaps to do it so you don't have to think about it so hard. But it's meant to be able to allow you to do it cheerfully without restraint. And when you get blessed with more, don't forget that's another opportunity, right? To be able to give even more. And I'm willing to bet, considering what Abel did here, that had he all of a sudden had substantially even more flock, new births and stuff, he would have probably again gone, oh, that is amazing. Here, Lord, thank you. And given another offering, wouldn't he? And Cain, let's see what it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't specify. We just have to kind of guess. It's a difference in the heart, and what he gave is probably a sign of that, even though it doesn't explicitly describe it. So the next part gets very important. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Okay. So the Lord did not, receive your offering the way you had hoped, and this made you angry. And you can imagine he's probably a bit jealous of his brother, envious, jealous, whatever, jealous of the Lord's favor on his offering, envious that maybe he thought he was making out easier or something, with raising flocks as opposed to his efforts at raising crops. You never know. Is the grass greener on the other side of the fence kind of thing? And then the Lord is talking to him, and why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? He's trying to bring to his attention his state of mind and being. The Lord continues to do this through all of us with our conscience. We get angry about something, and then we'll have thoughts popping in there to like try to correct us. It's like, why are you angry in this situation? You know, you ever had that happen? Might take a little while after you've cooled off a bit, depends on the circumstance. But he was stewing, and the Lord, and this is cool though. The Lord, I mean, he's actually directly talking to him. We don't really get that nowadays. I know it's this other process. I've put my I've put my law and into your hearts, written it into your hearts, kind of thing. We'll talk about that much more later down the line. But the whole point is we have a conscience that helps tell us when we're doing wrong. And the thought about, and I can directly go to the commandment, thou shalt not kill. And, I'm Lutheran, so we're talking from Martin Luther has expanded upon those kind of ideas. And even Jesus talks about this stuff is when you have, and the other disciples, when you have the thoughts, when you have something in your heart, you're thinking things and you're having anger toward other people. It's inside you first. That's where it all begins before you even say anything or do anything. So when you have the thoughts, you're already murdering somebody because of the way you're thinking about them. And unfortunately, the thoughts do lead to actions. And in I mean, it could be this one, like where Cain is thinking about he's angry at Abel, right? He's probably angry at the Lord too. All right. We're angry at the world around us and the people around us, and then we start thinking about things. And the Lord warns Cain. Um, he says, if you do what is right, will you not be accepted? Hmm. Now, is he talking about the offering once again? Or is he talking about the possibility of what Cain is thinking about? He's got this anger towards his brother in the Lord, definitely his brother, right? And he can make the choice to do what is right or not. That's the free will thing again. And if he just does what is right, will he not be accepted by the Lord? I mean, that's who's our judge. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. Oh boy. If you do not do what is right, and that could be, there's a lot of different things there that could be being thought about there, but in his relationship with Abel, if he doesn't do what is right, sin is crouching at the door. It's the thoughts that are plaguing him, why he's angry, and what it's possibly, putting visions of things in his head. And he does apparently fall susceptible to those that those the sin, those desires, and instead of using the Lord to overcome those desires, using his free will to overcome those desires again, he falls prey to those desires, right, that he has played out things in his mind, and he commits an act of premeditated murder, doesn't he? He's then the Lord, I'm sorry. Then Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. I'm not sure what else that is involved in that. Hey, let's go to the field. I want to show you something. See this rock? I don't know. While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Okay, see. So it was premeditated, all coming out from what he had kept thinking about, the way he was feeling, instead of dealing with it. And let me go back to if you do not do what is right, or if you do what is right, you will be accepted. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. What could he have done? I mean, if he's having an issue, maybe he should have talked with the Lord some more. That would have been great. He could have also gone and talked to Abel. Hey, the Lord didn't accept my offering or didn't find favor with, but he found favor with yours. Can you tell me, can you help me understand why? You know, that would have been great. Your brothers, why don't you just talk? You know, do we hear about families, where they have all kinds of schisms, disagreements, this, that, and the other going on, and you can never get together and have a pleasant Thanksgiving or Christmas or any other kind of family event without causing strife? Yeah, we wouldn't want that. It would be a bad household to hang out in. So no idea here. He could have taken some other actions. Anyway, so he goes and kills his brother. And then the Lord comes to Cain and is like, "Where's your brother?" And then we get this is like, I think, one of the first sayings that we recognize. If you ever think about it, there's a lot of sayings throughout throughout history that people have that come directly from the Bible. And look at this one right here. "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" Oh my gosh, that's like the first one I think that they have in here, that we have that. People use that all the time. Someone's like asks about somebody's like, am I my brother's keeper?" Now it's a little less common now, I guess, but we need to bring back the classics. That's a good one. Am I my brother's keeper? That's not, this is a little different context than generally I think people use that. They're just like, "Oh, where is he? I don't know." Now this one is, he knows exactly where Abel is, and he's just trying to put off the Lord, and it's crazy. It's like this is God we're talking about, all powerful, all knowing. He knows where he is. Why don't you just fess up? He did, but he doesn't want to confess. He doesn't want to confess that well, gee, I murdered Abel. It's a lot to say. And the Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cried out to me from the ground." So the Lord knows. I don't know. Does the blood literally cry out? I mean, it's just because the Lord knows. It's like, you murdered Abel, and there's his blood soaked into the ground there. And like the Lord will tend to do, you do a bad thing, well, I'm going to curse you. I'm going to give you some punishment. This is an earthly punishment. You are under a curse and driven from the ground. Hmm. So not only, let's see, he's not a herdsman, raising uh, uh, goats or sheep or whatever, but he's been working on the ground, right, and raising crops. And now he's like, no more of that for you. If you try, it's not going to do anything. It's like, oh, well, how is he going to eat? Going to have to live off of the generosity of others, or something, or find another way to make a living. Anyway, so he becomes a restless wanderer, driven away. And Cain says to him, he's complaining. He's like, "That's just too much punishment. I can't bear that." He's like, I'm gonna be wandering restless around the world, and whoever finds me is gonna kill me." But the Lord does give him a little bit of a blessing here. He's saying, "Well, I'm going to spare you from being killed by other people in the same fashion you did your brother, by putting a mark on you." No idea what that is. Maybe it's like, "Do not kill." I don't know. So, something right there on his forehead. And everyone who sees him go, "Uh-oh, that's Cain. Don't touch him. The Lord will smite you." So who knows? We don't know. But Cain goes out. And that's interesting. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Went out from the Lord's presence. Hmm. I'd love to give some more thought, or have someone else give me some thoughts on that, because does that mean he's just like, "Okay, fine, I'm out of here"? And the Lord is everywhere. He's all knowing, all seeing. He's omnipresent. He's everywhere. So how does the Cain go out from the Lord's presence? Is that not more of a state of being where no longer has faith in the Lord, doesn't have a relationship with the Lord? And it's like, that's their thing. I have nothing to do with it anymore. Is that not being part of the Lord's presence anymore? Could he not have asked for forgiveness, for one thing, confessed, given forgiveness, repented, and turned his life around? I mean, he probably would still have been punished. Okay, that's important to remember. Punishment is the end result of your sinful act. Repentance, forgiveness for it is different because we're talking the earthly punishment or effect versus the spiritual punishment and permanent effect, of where do you end up? So do you end up in the Lord's presence or you go to the bad place? I don't know. That's interesting. It's an interesting way that they worded it, that out from the Lord's presence. I'm guessing he's just like, fine, I'm not going to have anything to do with you anymore. Boom. And just does his own thing. Like we see lots of people in the world doing, they don't have faith, they don't believe in the Lord, and they're just, letting their lives go wherever they're going to go. And he, of course, he had a wife and started to they talk about his genealogy, he had various children. It's interesting again how there seems to be specialized, right? We got Yeah, see, we go down the line here. We got Jabal, who was the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. Jubal, father of those who play stringed instruments and pipes. We got That's interesting. Sure. And then we got Tubal Cain, who gets into doing forging, tools, bronze and iron. Interesting stuff. Anyway, so we'll just go down. I don't know if there's much interest, other stuff to make note of in that area, but let's go down. Isn't this interesting though? We get down a little bit, a few generations, and we got Lamech, right? That's the guy that has the two wives, Ada and Zillah. And he's telling them, "Hey, ladies, got to tell you, I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me." And here, interesting, if Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. What kind of ego does this guy have? First of all, this is not even the Lord. Remember, I'm guessing from Cain, remember, he has, well, let me make sure I got the wording right. Cain went out from the Lord's presence. So he continues to have his family and all. I'm imagining he's not even talking about the Lord much, if at all, to his generations that follow. Cain does live a while. Probably getting into that later. But here you got Lamech. Obviously, he's heard some of the stories of Cain is avenged 7 times. If someone murders him, kills him, then Lamech's 77. He's just making up, stuff. It's like, wait a minute, because I guess it's just an ego. I mean, it's like, where do you get off trying to say you're going to do it like, what does it say, 7 and 77? That's 11 times over, right? I don't get that. It's craziness. And that's not the Lord saying that. So he's just speaking out the wrong orifice. He's just saying the wrong things. It's like craziness, and that has nothing to do with any kind of judgment from the Lord. That's just him making up stuff. Now we wrap up this chapter by Adam talking about. I'm sorry, them talking about Adam once again making love to his wife and giving birth to a son. It's interesting though in this context how, and I just want to reiterate, that's the sexual relationship between the husband and wife is normal in the married, relationship. But both instances where they're specifically talking about giving birth to their sons, their children, it's it's referring to making love. It's interesting. Just wanted to highlight that. I'm not sure if that's saying something about the natural process of a husband and wife making love is a byproduct of that is children. It's a natural byproduct of the loving process, you know, and that process, in a way, in various ways, continues after the children. You have the children, you continue to love them, and love grows. And actually, I guess I'll leave it at that. Love grows. Anyway, um, he also gave birth to a son named Seth, and again, Eve is uh, proclaiming how the Lord God helped in this process. Right? It's another blessing from the Lord, and This is a very interesting end to chapter 4. The statement here, at that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. It's like, okay, what does that even mean? What's going on there? Now we've had a number of generations, various groups of people run around, having more and more children, and so you get more people out there. What does this mean, calling on the name of the Lord? Now, if they've got a relationship with God, they're, as in some cases, talking directly with God, or maybe they're just praying to God, say, "Hey, God, could you help me here?" Or, "Hey, thank you today. This is a beautiful day. Thank you for my crops and my flocks, whatever." They could have an ongoing discourse, not always maybe verbally responded to or otherwise. But what does that mean, calling on the name of the Lord? The way I'm seeing it, or thinking about it, I should say, is that maybe they are praying to the Lord for help. Maybe they're seeing a lot of problems in this earthly realm here, stuff going on around them. They're like, "Oh my gosh, Lord, please help. I don't know if I can stand this. This is too much for me." There's so much stuff going on, and it's either just, "Oh, I can't take it," or it's like, "I'm worried I'm going to fall prey to sin and do things that I see being done around me." There's a lot that could be said about potentially what that even means there, calling on the name of the Lord. It could be also, there could, yeah, calling on the name of the Lord for, like, "Thank you, Lord, for this blessing and that blessing," maybe. But I'm thinking means people that are in trouble. And we're going to start to see, not so long a time here, what's going on in the world gets to a point where the Lord is like, "Oh, I think I need to try to reset some stuff here." So we'll be diving into that pretty soon. That's about all I have for chapter 4. And thank you for your time. If you've watched this and any of the other Bible study uh, segments that I've done, I do appreciate it. Continue to join in, uh, mash the like button, and please feel free to make some comments. I mean, I would be interested in other people's insights they might want to share, and we could have an ongoing discourse. I'll try to check that stuff every now and then or get responses to anyone who makes a comment. So if it takes a while, don't blame me. But look forward to continuing this Bible study, and hopefully with some of you who jump in with me. You have a blessed day. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.